So basically, we minted 5,000 supply at 0.08 ETH. We broke it down into two whitelist mints because I really did not want kind of public bots to become our main holders if they were just going to flip anyway. And so we allowed everyone on the catalyst to mint to a total of two. In order to kind of try and get a good unique holder count. And then that phase minted out about 1,800. Then we moved into phase two, whereby everyone could mint to a total of 10. And again, why we wanted that was, if people don't want to use their opportunity to be a unique holder, that's fine. But let's kind of then get that to the people who do. And so that got us to kind of a total of like 3.9. And then we opened the public mint. And within 15 minutes, we had sold out, which was like, I don't know, man. I was planning 2 days, right? Like I was trying to get everyone psychologically, down for the idea that, we might take 2 days to mint out, but it didn't happen. I mean, we minted out in 15 minutes. There was a slight mistake on my part with the Merkle tree. There were like 4 minutes when the public couldn't actually mint. And then what happened was all the people on the whitelist were like, what's going on over here? Where's all this volume coming from? So a few of those people who were on the early catalyst actually then came and exercised their right to mint. That's what seems to have happened. So it was a very interesting mint to be sure. And then we wanted to get that reveal done quickly because, kind of not to fatten our art, but we've just got so much utility we want to pump out. It's like, let's get through kind of all these basic motions quickly. Like you, we wanted to use verifiable proof. So I know that, kind of you also speak to Overdrive and Puppy and stuff at Elogics. Yeah. And I'm like, great, let's integrate that. And I have to say, the training team was always very polite and on the ball. But they were not that informed when it comes to NFTs. That was what I struggled with. It was very difficult to get an exact price out of them and different things like that. And long story short, they basically don't shuffle the deck. They just cut the deck, and they didn't kind of make that clear. And then also we were waiting an hour and 10 minutes because they told us the price was kind of going to be like two link, only to find out that, yes, it's actually only 0.7, but your account has to have a lot inside because it has to prioritize the fact that maybe gas will spike. So I then quickly transported 60 link into the account, and then within a minute it had revealed, and surprise, everything was clumped together. So, the team was amazing. We've got Fresh Drops as an advisory as well. And they quickly came on and were like, look, this is what you can do. This is how we can kind of put out a warning notice. Let's refresh data. Let's re-upload all the metadata, spin it again, and let's do that. So the community rallied. We did okay. And, it really does, it's maybe kind of, we've had our first fight together, right? Like we've been through our first war zone together, a tough market, a tough reveal. And the community seems to have come together much stronger. We're playing jazz all night. We were chilling in the cafe. I think we sometimes have north of 100 people just hanging out in voice chat. So, I think this community is something that I'm shocked that it came together so well. I mean, I don't want to downplay the fact that I've been building and work like a dog, but, the fact that it all came together, one is not entitled in NFT land for things to go your way just because you're giving good stuff to people, right? And, I think that's an unhappy story that a lot of people know too well. And so I'm still extremely grateful that so many smart and wonderful people have all kind of come together in one space. And it's truly been remarkable. Just quickly on what we're building, I would say break it down into kind of 2 or 3 components. Component number 1 is kind of our flagship offering, which is a blue chip NFT hedge fund structured as a collectors club. And so whereas you kind of are buying projects that you think are undervalued and raffling them off, we're kind of putting them into a community vault and having a council of claw kind of put forward proposals for us to vote on. And basically we break it down into big caps, mid caps, and small caps. Primarily those that have kind of reached critical mass like Bored Ape, where they've got great brand recognition. Those that have maybe gone under the radar like Koolman's Universe would go to the mid caps. And then the small caps are kind of like trying to find that next PXN so that we can kind of do an arbitrage, maybe, take 10 whitelist spots for the DAO, flip 8, and then kind of, keep compounding those funds. And we're going to be looking into incubation. So that's kind of the flagship offering. And governance works quite simply that if it's time sensitive, it goes to the council to decide on. And if it's not time sensitive, like distributions and electing the council and stuff like that, that all goes to the entire DAO to vote on. Right? Like, for example, right now we put to the entire DAO a vote that should we buy a Bored Ape, right? Because as you mentioned, there are so many opportunities right now that if the market were to kind of pump again, we could see a major growth again in some of these bigger blue chips like Bored Ape and Artifact. And so, we're really trying to get on that as soon as possible. And then I would say the next aspect is education. We're building a premier business club and think tank. And I say it like that because, in addition to the fact that we've got alpha and a robust whitelist marketplace, we're also really trying to build out a massive research team, kind of a critical mass of constant debate. We've got kind of, I think now, close to 200 founders hanging out in the server as well. And so we're trying to bring that all together into one place and turn our Discord into kind of, that social capital powerhouse where everything business and thought related is discussed.
That's amazing. And so, taking it back to the mint. Okay. So you guys, I've followed along. I was with you in your Discord, probably when you had, 1,200, 1,500 people in your Discord. So I've been there for a while. And it's so funny because you hear from a lot of projects and you hear from a lot of people who say you need to have a certain amount of people in your Discord. You need to have a certain amount of Twitter followers in order for you to feel confident going into your mint. And, we've got about 4,000 or so in our Discord, and you had about 7,000 going into your mint of 5,000 NFTs, right? And a 5,000 NFT collection. And there are so many projects who have 15,000, 17,000, 20,000 in their Discord, and they go to mint and they don't even come close to minting out. But yet you had 7,000 or maybe even a little under 7,000, and you minted out a 5,000 collection. And so I think it really just goes to show that it doesn't necessarily matter about the number of people you have in your Discord, but it's more so about, are these people, loyal to the leader? They believe in what the project stands for, and so forth. And I think you did a really good job of doing that and being confident in minting because, a lot of people have told us at Janitors, hey, we want to see you have 12,000, 15,000 in your Discord before you even consider minting a 4,444 collection. And sometimes I think, well, we're not necessarily the same as a lot of these other projects. We're not pumping people into our Discord. We want people to come into our Discord who want to be there and believe in the project. And I think that's exactly what you built.
Yeah, I think absolutely. But I think the reason why those metrics are often so used is because the reality is everyone is saying they want. We're all playing musical chairs, right? Let's be honest. Most of the NFT projects are all playing musical chairs. It's often the same people kind of going to the next party for the day, right? And so what they really are saying is, if you get a big enough number, then you can kind of mitigate the risk of your lack of confidence, right? Because the reality is, the only reason I felt so strong about going to this mint and feeling like if I did not go into this mint, I would be letting down the community, because if Bored Apes, for example, did pump, we've kind of missed that perfect storm, right? So for me, it was a feeling of, I know how I'm supposed to do it. I know I'm going contrary to everything, but I have literally personally curated this entire cat list, right? One of the things I learned from, Joe and Dom from the founders of Creeps, they said to me, Dylan, in a project like yours, do not give whitelist spots away, or not, at least not sizable amounts without an AMA, because you need to literally be speaking to these people. You need to be taking their questions. They need to form a relationship with the founding team and the values of the project, because that's the only way then that you can kind of trust that they trust you and you trust them. And that may have been kind of the strongest advice I got. And also when we did do partnerships, because, you do have to, even if you're not a hype project, you do have to get the word out. I tried to give them a smaller allocation as possible and to kind of give them a bit of a rough time. I mean, we're not stupid. Of course, I could have said to them, give me your wallet addresses. Instead, we said, give us the Discord names. We have 30 plus wonderful mentors who will be there, happy to open when they open a ticket to add them to the whitelist, right? And so we gave them the ring around because we knew that if you're an NFT llama holder, you may not show up because you get 10 of these offers you win a day. And, we only want the ones if you are really interested. One of the biggest positive signs for me was that 70% of the Gajira holders claimed their whitelist spots. So it was like, what the hell is going on? But, then something's going on.
That's such a great way of doing it. And we do a very similar way with Janitors, because we're not necessarily the same type of project as Fat Cats, but we're doing something, in a similar way where we're helping our holders, we're voting on projects we like and stuff like that. And so that is 100% a great way of doing it, because there are so many people and so many projects who reach out to us and ask for like 150 spots in their alpha groups. And I think to myself, there's no way these people are going to mint this project. So I'm not going to take their wallets. We're not going to take their wallet addresses. We're going to just take their Discord name, and they can come into the server if they, and listen to some of our AMAs. And if they like the project, then they'll ask for a whitelist, right?
Exactly. I think I actually end up allocating throughout the 3.5 months something like 3,500 whitelist spots, and our final tally on our actual kind of collection, because so many of those projects kind of died out along the way. Some of them literally have dead servers now. Was something like 2,077. So
Right.
we highly undersubscribed.
Yeah, and we're in the same boat. I feel the same way. There's, I go through the list from projects like, some of these bigger projects, and see who's in our Discord and who's open to ticket. And a lot of times it's 50-40% or so.
I have a question. Versus if you, so
Yeah.
I read distributions on your website investing in, I guess it's a DAO vote to either invest the profits from one of your blue chip NFT flips, or I guess whatever level flip you would have. But the distributions piece of that, how would you plan to distribute to your holders the profits from one of those gains? Like what's
Fantastic.
the idea there? Is it ETH?
Yeah.
Are you using Polygon?
Yeah, so the website was cryptic for a reason, because we really are dancing in the gray and trying to not antagonize the SEC. I mean, it goes without fail that every project that says the word hedge fund in their name has undoxed founders. You find that as a kind of a general rule right now, right? Because that's their way of dealing with the problem. Our way of dealing with the problem is staying within the legal gray. And so we would just make a claims contract. And will that claims contract be in USDC or Ethereum or DAI? That's really up to the community. So that will be one of the questions we will be voting on, is what do we keep our float in? As for what the distributions will be, I expect that our big caps will be the things that we tend to hodl, right? In other words, the only reason we would probably flip a Bored Ape is if the market goes absolutely bananas and pumps, and we feel like, okay, Bored Ape is a great long-term hold, but this market's just insane. Let's kind of cash out and come back in at a slightly lower point. But we will be careful about that, because Bored Ape has kind of a history of kind of coming out as a winner. They retract slightly, but it's still at a much higher floor than kind of the previous ceiling, right? But I think the plays that we'll do as a lot more arbitrage will be in the small caps and in the incubation, right? So the small caps, kind of like, we definitely want to sell much of our holdings in a new project because we want to see if they fulfill their roadmap. Or in the case of incubation, if we've been the advisors on the project and we're helping it succeed, we may keep our entire kind of position, but we'll also be getting a cut of the mint because we'll kind of be their advisors. So that the royalties and maybe some arbitrage positions should accumulate into a nice amount of money. And then we can kind of, decide how much to reinvest, and that which people want distributed, we just make a claims contract for 2 weeks. Everyone, we take a snapshot, they come and collect. And after those 2 weeks, anyone who didn't collect because they've lost their wallet or something, we just put that back to the community fund, because there's no need to give Satoshi Nakamoto any more money.
Yeah. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, so that was a good question, Flossy. Another question I had was just what's the process look like for how you decide what to invest in, which project to invest in? Because say like some people want to buy 30 llamas, and someone else, a bunch of other people say, well, why don't we just buy one Bored Ape? What's the process look like for that?
Fantastic. So we're in the middle of nominating our council right now. And basically the council will be a team of 5, each with kind of different portfolios. So I'm going to be pushing for myself to be the chair, but also I will have the portfolio of the big caps and strategic partnerships for Fat Cats, so for helping our branding. Then we will have one counselor who's heading the incubation department, one counselor heading kind of small caps, and then probably 2 counselors heading mid caps. And their job will be for the community to be able to liaise with them. So they'll be able to open tickets to kind of show different projects that they think we should be looking into. And then we'll take a short list of those projects. The council will meet regularly, and we will then kind of, whittle it down to a few options, put out formal reports, and then put those as a snapshot vote to fill our different allocations. So, we're expecting the allocation for the big caps to be something between 45 to 55% of our entire holdings. The mid caps will probably be, I'm expecting, the vote to be approved in the 20 to 30% range, and then maybe, 10% for the small caps and 10% for incubation and cash. So that's kind of how we will be looking at it. And then, of course, if there's enough of a kind of like community cry in favor of something, right, just to get to be put on the docket, which is what kind of happened with the Bored Ape. If there's a consensus of more than 10% really wanting in on a project, they can kind of bypass the council part where the council puts that as a priority, and will put a vote out for that.
Very cool. That's awesome. So I had another question. Flosi, do you have any? Actually, it's always good to open the floor here and let some other people ask some questions as well, because I tend to talk nonstop and ask a million questions.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask a question, please request to be a speaker, and we'll bring you on up. My big one was that I was interested on how those distributions were going to work, but I'm really excited to see how this project goes and how all that stuff's functions. So I'll be following along.
And one other one I had, Dylan, is so how much was allocated to the community wallet post mint?
280 ETH. 280 ETH, and now we have already kind of passed. I think we're at the 14 ETH royalty mark. So I think we're nearly at 300 ETH.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's a lot of ETH to play with to, potentially turn into even more ETH and for the community. So that's pretty cool. That's a good amount. And what percent of the mint was that, the 280 ETH?
70% of the mint. So 70% of the mint and 100% of the ongoing royalties, and then 100% of the mint and 100% of the ongoing royalties for the junior fat cats go to the DAO. And for those wondering, the junior fat cats are literally just a stock split. So, everyone now kind of knows with the meta that you need to have something in a few months that you can kind of onboard new people with. And it gives, it allows people kind of to have the strategic decision of, if they wanted to vote to reinvest all of the funds back into compounding the size of the DAO, but also wanted to kind of get some money back, they could sell their juniors, right? And then it's a win-win because the DAO is getting the royalties and they're helping onboard new holders. And then the other aspect is non-dilution, right? Because the extra 2,000, so the junior fat cats are a free mint, but the extra 2,000 that will be sold probably as a whitelist thing to the public, those will be all of those that the money raised for that will go to the DAO wallet.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's talk about the reveal and what happened. So what exactly happened with the reveal? And it was crazy to see, because I like you mentioned, maybe you expected a little bit of a dip in the floor price because of what happened with the metadata, but in fact it was the opposite, and people kept buying. So what happened there?
Well, I think the philosophy is what got us in trouble, but also kind of is why the community is so supportive of it. Is, I've promised to push boundaries, right? I've promised to be all about excellence and transparency. And the reality is, using Chainlink is still kind of novel, right? As much as, Overdrive and them gave me help, it's still quite novel. And the Chainlink team themselves are more used to dealing with kind of price oracles for liquidity pools and stuff, and not really NFTs, right? This is not kind of big business for them. It's more of exposure. To be frank, they only, the Chainlink DAO only earned $20 from this whole process with us, right? And yet it kind of gave us all the support. So what really happened was there was a miscommunication on what actually Chainlink does. And so we had uploaded our data pretty much in order. We hadn't done a heavy shuffle on our end because we thought that was something that Chainlink does. But it turns out that Chainlink essentially cuts the deck, which means that they just change where the numbers start as opposed to actually doing a full-blown shuffle. And so what we ended up with was, maybe number 1 metadata went to number 10, but then all of the things next to number 1 went there as well, right? They were kept in the order that they had been uploaded. And so everyone was getting batches. And one of the silver linings that happened was I ended up getting all 9 legendaries because I had minted 165. And it was like, Oh, wow. Because, because I've offered to pay back people who minted like between those periods, above like floor price. And, imagine the kind of tragedy when people would have started selling the legendaries to each other. So that was kind of a Hail Mary pass. And then we just quickly communicated with the DAO. I mean, I hopped on, I saw something was wrong because people were like, wow, you got Dumbledore, Dylan. Well, you deserve it. I'm like, thanks. And someone was like, oh, you got Harry too. I'm like, oh, dear God, I've got no luck. This is not possible. And then Fresh Drops is like, wow, you got 4 of the legendaries. I'm like, oh, fuck. Captain Bad, get on a call right now. Something's very, very wrong over here. And so we quickly put out that announcement. And then we went into damage control. We posted something on OpenSea. We posted an announcement also inside the Discord and on Twitter telling people, please stop flipping. We're going to re-roll. And then within 2 hours, Dave, our project manager, and Captain Bad got on a call, re-audited everything, reshuffled everything. And I wasn't involved in that. So that kind of, I would be impartial. But essentially, we hired Fresh Drops to handle our metadata clearly. And so, we got it up again and we re-revealed. And the community really rallied behind, how we handled a bad situation.
Yeah, it was cool to see because I literally didn't see any FUD at all. Everyone was just, happy and it worked out great. And the floor price rose. In fact, like it just kept rising before the new metadata was even entered in. And then it was cool to see. It was just cool to see the community do that. So yeah, that was definitely interesting to see. And it kind of, it kind of goes to show you that maybe we are turning a table here with NFTs, and you kind of prove that collections can definitely still sell out during this and can still do well because you've already done 200 ETH on secondary as well, right? Somewhere right around there, and
Exactly.
The floor price is still holding steady around 0.14, which is 0.06 above the mint price. So you're doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hats off to the community. I mean, it really is a remarkable bunch. And on top of it, the amount, I am shocked at the amount of holders of 50 fat cats and 20 fat cats. I mean, it's quite remarkable to me, kind of the amount of trust being placed in this ecosystem. So it's remarkable and it's also humbling. And it inspires me to kind of get up in the morning and really do good by these people, right? And really make them a lot of money while having a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think they see how hard you work too as a leader, and I think that's really important because, I mean, you every single day you post AMAs and you're doing 2 to 3. I was seeing 2 to 3 AMAs a day, maybe even more, that you were just going on to, and it didn't matter who it was really. You were just getting out there and spreading the word. I mean, you could I saw you sometimes in spaces where there were 10 people. I saw you sometimes in spaces where there were 400 people, and it didn't really matter to you. You were just out there spreading the word and doing as much as you could. And I think the community definitely sees that, and they say, this guy's going to work for us. He's going to continue to build for us. So this is a project I can get behind.
Yeah, and I also think, we've got to get neuromod here too, but I also think that it was really, when people say, what was kind of that novel angle, what did you do? I think one of the areas of novelty that we did was we token gated based on competency and not based on net worth. And, when I would get to speak to smaller communities, where I knew Hypnoducks. I mean, it's a small but very close community and a very smart bunch. And they're like, look, we're not going to have a big crowd. I'm like, I don't care. I'll come and speak to our friends, and my community kind of PA at WGMI, I mean, is a long-term holder there. So of course I'll make time to speak to them. And what I wanted to do was really try and find all the brains and all the kind of people who want to build and are excited about building in this space and are here for the long term and get them all into Fat Cats, whether they were project founders or just, 16-year-olds who were just dabbling but had a knack for kind of research and stuff. And to that end, we're still keeping that culture. We've got a locked Discord. Thanks to WAP. If you're a holder, you can get into the Discord straight from the website. I think we're one of the first to integrate that as well. But also, we've kept this culture where anyone who's a Fat Cat holder can always invite their friends, and the same goes for project founders, because we want, people to kind of bring their friends into the club, and we don't want to kind of downplay, their importance. We call them Fat Cat allies. If they just come and kind of hang out and share information, we're giving them tons of free research and alpha and content because we want them to kind of hang out and create a kind of mass Reddit forum hype and discussion that goes on.
Absolutely. Well, Dylan, man, we really appreciate having you on. If there are no questions,